Ladies and gentlemen, today, I want to speak to every person who feels alone in their journey, to the one who embracing solitude as a training ground is the first and greatest step towards learning how to win alone. For many people, being alone is something uncomfortable, something they run from, something they avoid by filling their life with noise, people, entertainment, and distractions. But if you look at every person who has achieved greatness in any field, whether spiritual leaders, military generals, philosophers, martial artists, or inventors, you will see a pattern. They spent long periods of their lives in solitude, not because they hated people, but because they understood that solitude is the place where a person meets themselves without any masks. Solitude strips away the expectations of the world. It removes the voices of praise and criticism and leaves you with only one voice to face your own. And it is in this sacred space that you truly discover who you are, what you fear, what you love, what you believe in, and what you stand for. Most people fear being alone because they have never learned how to be alone powerfully. They think that being alone makes them weak, that it is proof that no one loves them, or that they are not valuable enough to be surrounded by others. But the truth is exactly the opposite. The strongest individuals are those who do not fear solitude. They embrace it as a training ground to build their mind, their discipline, and their spirit. When you are alone, there is no one to impress. There is no one to compare yourself with. There is no one to distract you from your thoughts. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. Your mind may fill with anxiety and doubts. Memories of your failures, regrets, and weaknesses may start flooding in. But this is exactly why solitude is powerful. It is the mirror that reveals everything hidden within you. When you use solitude as a training ground, you begin to observe yourself honestly. You start seeing the habits that drain your energy. You see the excuses you make every day. You see the lies you tell yourself to stay comfortable. You begin to see your fears clearly, the fear of failure, rejection, judgment, and uncertainty. And once you see them, you can start working on them. You can no longer pretend they do not exist. Solitude forces you to confront your darkness so that you can rise in your light. This is why warriors in ancient times often spent time alone in the forest, mountains, or caves to train. They trained their bodies, yes, but more importantly, they trained their minds. They silenced the world so they could hear the voice of their own spirit. They learned to endure discomfort without needing others to comfort them. They learned to motivate themselves without needing others to cheer for them. They learned to push through pain without anyone watching them, and when they returned to society, they were unbreakable. They did not need anyone to tell them who they were. They already knew. When you embrace solitude as your training ground, you begin to build routines that strengthen your life. You wake up early even though no one knows or cares. You train your body even though there is no coach to push you. You study your goals and your craft even though there is no teacher to guide you. You meditate and reflect even though there is no group to sit with you. And day by day, your power grows, because now your discipline is not dependent on external motivation. Your strength is not dependent on someone supervising you. You become your own leader, your own motivator, your own guide. And this is what makes you unstoppable. Most people will never taste this level of freedom and confidence because they never embrace solitude. They only feel strong when their friends praise them. They only feel motivated when their boss watches them. They only feel loved when their partner holds them. And while there is nothing wrong with enjoying support, if you depend on it, you will never be free. The day people leave, the day circumstances change, you will break, because your power was never truly yours. But when you train alone, when you build yourself in solitude, you can walk into any room, into any situation, into any hardship, and remain unshaken, because your power does not come from them, it comes from within you. The greatest gift of solitude is clarity. Clarity about your purpose, your goals, your weaknesses, and your strengths. When you are alone with your thoughts, you can hear what your heart has been trying to tell you amidst the noise of the world. You start realizing what really matters to you, what is worth fighting for, and what is wasting your life. You begin to prioritize your health, your spiritual growth, your learning, your discipline. You start cutting out habits, people, and distractions that weaken your path. You become intentional about everything you do, and this intention makes your actions powerful and precise. In conclusion, embracing solitude as a training ground is not about isolating yourself forever or rejecting the world. It is about mastering yourself so deeply in silence that when you return to the world, you return with clarity, with confidence, and with unbreakable power. Solitude is not your enemy, it is your greatest teacher, and if you learn to win there, you will be able to win anywhere. Developing self-discipline without external validation is the mark of a true warrior, a true leader, and a true master of life. Many people can act disciplined when someone is watching them, when there is a deadline, when there is a teacher, boss, or trainer to impress. But the real test of discipline is what you do when no one is watching, when there is no reward coming immediately, when there is no praise waiting for you at the end of your effort. This is where most people fail. They depend so deeply on external validation that they cannot continue any journey that does not offer them instant recognition or approval. They quit their health goals because no one notices their silent workouts. They quit studying because no one claps for their hours of reading. They quit their spiritual practice because no one praises their discipline. Their entire life is a performance for others instead of a commitment to themselves. To win alone, you must cultivate a discipline that is rooted in your purpose and values, rather than in praise or fear of judgment. Imagine a soldier who only trains when his commander watches him. On the battlefield, when there is no one to supervise him, his skills will fail him. Imagine a monk who only meditates when his teacher sits beside him. When he is alone in his room, his mind will consume him. Imagine an athlete who only trains hard when the coach is there. On competition day, his body will not respond with full power. This is why the greatest individuals in any field develop an inner discipline so strong that it becomes part of their identity. They do not need motivation, they do not need supervision, they do not need reminders. Their goals and routines become non-negotiable parts of their life. When you build self-discipline without external validation, you unlock a level of power that most people will never taste. You no longer wait to feel like doing something before you do it. You no longer wait for praise before you take the next step. You no longer wait for someone to watch you before you act excellently. You simply do what must be done because it is who you are. If you want to win alone, you must train yourself to wake up and pursue your goals regardless of how you feel. You must study even when your mind feels lazy. You must train even when your body feels tired. You must meditate even when your thoughts resist silence. You must build your skills even when no one appreciates your effort. The greatest power of such discipline is that it creates an unbreakable consistency. Most people live a life of temporary motivation. They work hard for a week and then disappear for a month. They read a book today and then do not open another for 6 months. They pray today and then forget about God for weeks. They eat clean for 2 days and then destroy their health with junk for the next 10 days. Such inconsistency never builds mastery. It never builds strength. It never builds results. But when you act from inner discipline, you remain consistent. Day after day, whether it is raining or shining, whether you feel happy or sad, whether life is easy or painful, you keep doing what must be done. This is what makes you win alone. You do not depend on anyone to wake you up. You do not depend on anyone to tell you to train. You do not depend on anyone to force you to work. You do not depend on anyone to give you a vision. You carry your vision within yourself. Your discipline becomes your armor against weakness. It becomes your weapon against procrastination. It becomes your shield against distractions. And when others finally see your results, they will wonder how you achieved so much alone. They will not realize that your consistency in the dark hours built the light they now admire. Another deep truth is that when you build discipline without validation, you gain freedom from people's opinions. Their praise no longer intoxicates you. Their criticism no longer paralyzes you. You no longer fear losing their approval because you have built a life where your validation comes from within. You begin to act from truth rather than from performance. You begin to live from purpose rather than from popularity. This frees your mind, calms your heart, and strengthens your focus. The process is not easy. Your mind will resist it. It will crave quick rewards and praises. But every time you choose to act without needing external validation, you train your mind to obey your purpose rather than your comfort. You teach yourself that your life is your responsibility, and this makes you powerful beyond imagination. Because now, nothing and no one can stop you. Even if people walk away, even if you lose your audience, even if your efforts go unnoticed for years, you will keep building, growing, learning, and walking your path with determination. In conclusion, developing self-discipline without external validation is the foundation of winning alone. It transforms your work into worship, your goals into unbreakable commitments, and your journey into an unstoppable force. When you no longer depend on praise to act, you become the master of your destiny, and your success becomes inevitable. Mastering your emotions and inner battles is one of the deepest requirements to win alone in life. When you walk your path without company, the loudest voices you will ever hear are not the criticisms of others, but the doubts that come from within your own mind. These doubts are powerful because they know your weaknesses intimately. They whisper thoughts like you are not good enough, this is pointless, you will fail again. Why are you even trying when no one notices? And these thoughts can destroy your motivation if you are not trained to manage them. That is why mastering your emotions is not just about controlling anger or sadness. It is about developing emotional intelligence so deep that no thought, no feeling, no memory can distract you from your purpose. Emotions are like weather, they change every day. Some days you will feel unstoppable, passionate, driven, and powerful. Other days you will feel empty, tired, and defeated. Most people only act according to how they feel, and that is why their lives remain stagnant. But if you want to win alone, you must learn to act based on your decisions and values, not your emotions. For example, if you decide to wake up at 4 a.m. to train, and when the alarm rings, your mind says sleep more, you're tired, you need to have the strength to override that emotion and get up. When you decide to work on your goals late at night while others are watching movies, but your mind says, relax, you've worked enough. You must be able to ignore that emotional suggestion and keep working. Winning alone means you cannot afford to be a slave to temporary feelings. You must acknowledge your emotions, but not obey them when they contradict your goals. This requires daily practice. Observe your mind when it becomes fearful. Where is this fear coming from? Is it from past failures? Is it from insecurities planted in your childhood? Is it from comparing yourself to others? When you understand the root of your emotions, you begin to realize that most of them are illusions, shadows of past experiences that no longer hold power in your present unless you allow them to. Another key battle within is overcoming procrastination. The mind will always choose comfort over discomfort, familiarity over growth, pleasure over discipline, unless you train it to understand that discipline is freedom. When you master your inner battles, you begin to enjoy the process of overcoming resistance. You start taking pride in the fact that you pushed yourself when no one was watching. You start respecting yourself for choosing pain over ease, silence over noise, training over distraction. This self-respect becomes your fuel to keep moving forward. Emotions such as fear, doubt, sadness, anger, and insecurity are not your enemies. They are messengers. Fear shows you where you need courage. Doubt shows you where you lack preparation or faith. Sadness shows you what you value deeply. Anger shows you where your boundaries are being crossed. Insecurity shows you where you need to build confidence. When you win alone, you spend time listening to these emotions, understanding them, and transforming them into strength rather than letting them control you. This is why monks, warriors, philosophers, and spiritual masters spend hours in silence, meditation, or journaling to observe their inner world and become the masters of their minds. Mastering your inner battles also requires you to become aware of your thoughts. Thoughts are like seeds. If you water negative thoughts daily by repeating them, they grow into trees of self, doubt, fear, and hopelessness. But if you learn to replace them with thoughts of faith, courage, confidence, gratitude, and purpose, your mind becomes a powerful garden that produces strength and clarity every day. One practical way is to write down every limiting thought that arises and immediately write the empowering truth that cancels it. For example, if your mind says, "I can't do this," you write, "I have done difficult things before, and I can do this too." Over time, this reprograms your mind to support you rather than sabotage you. Winning alone is ultimately a mental battle. The world outside you will rarely be as challenging as the world within you. If you can master the storms in your own heart, no storm outside can break you. If you can calm the chaos in your own mind, no chaos outside can confuse you. This is why the greatest generals say, "Victory is won before the battle begins." Because the real battle is within defeating fear with faith, defeating doubt with preparation, defeating anger with understanding, defeating sadness with gratitude, and defeating weakness with discipline. In conclusion, mastering your emotions and inner battles is the key to winning alone, because your emotions shape your actions, and your actions shape your destiny. When you learn to observe your emotions without becoming their slave, you rise above them and use them to fuel your journey instead of delaying it. You become a master of your mind, and therefore a master of your life. Winning alone does not mean you never feel fear, sadness, or doubt. It means you feel them, face them, and keep walking forward with courage, wisdom, and unbreakable determination. Building inner confidence that does not depend on others is the final pillar of winning alone. In life, confidence built on external validation is fragile. When people praise you, you feel strong. When they ignore you, you feel invisible. When they agree with you, you feel wise. When they disagree, you feel worthless. Such confidence is like a boat floating on the ocean, completely controlled by the waves. But true inner confidence is like a mountain rooted deep into the earth. No storm can move it, no earthquake can break it, and no opinion can destroy it. This is the confidence that allows you to walk alone, to stand alone, to speak alone, and to fight alone when necessary. To build such confidence, you must first understand that your worth does not come from your achievements, your appearance, your possessions, or your relationships. These things can disappear at any moment. Your worth comes from the fact that you are alive, aware, and able to make choices every day. It comes from the simple truth that you were created with gifts, strengths, and a purpose that no one else carries in the exact way you do. When you anchor your confidence in this truth, it becomes unshakable. One powerful way to build inner confidence is by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you decide to do something and follow through, you tell your mind, I am reliable. I can trust myself. Most people lose confidence not because of what others say, but because of the silent promises they break to themselves every day. They say they will wake up early but sleep in. They say they will train but skip their workout. They say they will study but waste hours scrolling. Each broken promise chips away at their self-respect, and with it their confidence. But when you start keeping your promises, no matter how small, your confidence begins to rise. You start believing in yourself again, not because someone clapped for you, but because your own actions prove that you are disciplined, committed, and trustworthy. Another way to build inner confidence is to detach from the need for approval. Approval addiction is a silent killer of potential. It makes you edit your words, limit your dreams, shrink your ideas, and mold yourself into what others want rather than who you truly are. To win alone, you must train yourself to act from truth rather than fear of judgment. Ask yourself every day, if no one had an opinion about this, what would I do? This question will reveal your authentic desires and guide you towards decisions that build self-respect rather than regret. When you depend on others for confidence, you live in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of criticism, fear of being misunderstood. But when you build inner confidence, you become fearless, not because you think you will never fail, but because you know that even if you fail, you will rise again. You stop living to impress and start living to express. You stop living to be accepted and start living to fulfill your purpose. This inner confidence also comes from preparation. Many people feel insecure because they are not prepared. If you want to be confident in your work, study deeply. If you want to be confident in your fitness, train consistently. If you want to be confident in your spiritual strength, pray and meditate daily. Confidence is not magic, it is the natural result of preparation. The more prepared you are, the less you fear situations, people, and challenges. Winning alone requires you to walk into rooms without needing anyone's approval, to speak your truth without needing anyone's agreement, to pursue your goals without needing anyone's support, and to love yourself without needing anyone's permission. This is not arrogance. It is humility in its purest form, because you are no longer driven by ego, which craves praise, but by purpose, which only craves fulfillment. Such confidence radiates silently. People feel it when you enter a room. You do not need to prove yourself because your presence proves itself. You do not need to announce your worth because your energy announces it for you. This kind of confidence attracts respect, opportunities, and people who are also strong and authentic. Weak people seek validation. Strong people seek growth. When you build inner confidence, you naturally attract those who walk the same path of strength. In conclusion, building inner confidence that does not depend on others is what makes you unbreakable. It frees you from the chains of opinion, praise, and rejection. It allows you to stand tall when you are alone and remain grounded when you are celebrated. Such confidence is not built in a day. It is built in small choices, silent victories, and unbreakable discipline. When you build it, you can win anywhere, because your power is no longer borrowed from the world. it flows endlessly from within you.